Alrighty, so here's my second Kerbal Space Program video. As promised, I was going to do a space station. This is my core module. It's really simple, like very simple. It's like a jack of all trades with a lot of ports. It just has some power generators, a lot of ports, and some batteries. Nothing too fancy. I don't even really need a very fancy lift module. As you see, I use a lot of small rockets. It's not very heavy. The only thing that's cool about it is it's unsymmetrical, so I kind of challenged myself there to see if I could launch an unsymmetrical. And the only thing I really needed to do was add those fins to counter the wind resistance. I also have a scaffolding in the front. I know it's dead weight, but it just creates that counter weight of wind resistance. So I'm going to drop it before I finish. When I leave my space station, it'll just be that top module. But here I'm just positioning. Again, I gotta get into orbit, so I'm using that rocket to lift. I have a lot of fuel. This big rocket was only intended to ever just lift me out of the atmosphere anyways, so the fact that I'm getting any kind of extra function out of it is kind of nice, because now I'm switching to my positional rocket, like my space rocket, the one that's low thrust, more fuel efficient. It'll be really easy to get into orbit because I had so much thrust that I basically shot way out, as you can see. So I'm going to head out to the apex here and push the other side of my orbit out. I'm going to go for 500 meters for my orbit because it's kind of nice, because it's at 500 meters you kind of get an almost geosynchronous, like you move slightly off the speed of the planet, so it's kind of cool. Like it's perfect. I don't know. I like the 500 meters orbit. So I'm going to make it pretty circular at about 500 meters here, which will put it outside of my satellites as well, because my two satellites are orbiting inside of 500 meters. 500,000 meters, sorry. Technically 500 kilometers. Everything's always in meters though, so. Just working on the orbit here. I'm going to get the orbit perfect, and then I'm going to jettison that last little rocket, because the satellite has RCS boosters, and it'll never, not the satellite, the core of the space station. It's not technically a space station, it technically is just a satellite with ports on it. It'll become a space station once I dock some stuff to it. Here I'm just showing I'm turning everything on and making sure that my batteries don't die, because I've had that happen to me in the past where I forgot to put the solar panels out and the batteries died. Very disappointing when you're working hard and then you have no pilot left because the batteries are dead. But yeah, the core here is just basically a bunch of docking ports with a few solar cells, a few batteries, an antenna. Nothing too fancy, really. It's just a simple structure. That's why my rocket that I lifted it with is very tiny. My lift module. I don't know. The only thing I was doing with this one was unsymmetrical. I just wanted to see how hard it would be, and it wasn't bad. I don't think I'll try to do unsymmetrical on purpose, but this time I did it on purpose just to test, because this module isn't very heavy. There's anything that's unmanned seems pretty light. The next module I'll lift and connect to the space station is going to be my life support, so I'll have a manned mission. Finally, my first Kerbanaut mission into space. I'm going to take the Kerbonauts up and dock them to the space station. Here I'm just testing everything, kind of showing how the docks open and close. Pretty excited because it's all in position now. So I jettison the last engine because I know I'm not going to need it. And now that's my the core of my space station. I call it Leona. It's a baller. Leona's a baller. But yeah, here we go. The ports open up and I close them again just to keep the debris out. Alright, here's my life support system. I really overdid it. I have 2 hitchhiker capsules. You really only need 1, but I did 2 just to be that much cooler, because now I can have like 11 Kerbonauts, and then I have 2 little escape pods too with engines on them so that they can deorbit. Really overkill. Like really, I just put a lot of stuff on this just for fun, just to make it like really heavy. So this thing weighs a ridiculous amount, so I use a much bigger lift module. As you can see, I use 5 full-size engines. Of course, I still use staging because it's just more efficient. But this module, and plus all those capsules on the side sticking out are like major wind resistance, right? So I'm like pushing a wall through the surface or through the atmosphere, and it weighs a ridiculous amount. So I had to get kind of not creative, but I had to get bigger with the engines. I still went with my very simple design though. So the big engines, all they really do, their only real function is just to lift me off the surface. This last engine's gonna get me into a high orbit or a high arc so that I can use these boosters I have. I put them on the side. Those are, yeah, these two little engines. I call those my orbit boosters because I had enough fuel to dock, but I had like no margin for error. So I added these two tanks after a couple tries of just running out of fuel. And you kind of need a margin for error, especially since this is my first attempt to dock to a space station, and it turns out it's really tricky. And it took me several attempts, so I added these tanks to give me a more... See, now I jettison them, and basically it gave me that nice little boost of pushing me out further right there that I just wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And it was really clever. It didn't really affect my rocket too much because I already have those escape capsules up there anyways, so it doesn't really affect... It was just heavier, but I already had a lot of lift anyways. It was just a clever little trick to give me that extra little boost to give me more margin for error so that I could actually dock. Because putting it out of 500 meters is fine for the core unit because that was really light, but anything else I'm going to add now that's manned, it's going to be much heavier, so it takes a lot of energy to get out that far. As you can see, like, I burned all those thrusters, and that's as far away as I am. Like, I didn't even make it out to the orbit. I have to get tricky with the slingshotting around the planet to get my speed up so that I can get out there. Because I don't have enough fuel to just outright burn into the space station. I have to actually use, like, physics here, so... I fast forward a lot through here, because this actually takes me a good 45 minutes of moving my orbit in and out, 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 and then I finally get into orbit with the station. My engine's gone now, you can see. I burned all the fuel and I jettisoned it, so I'm using just the RCS boosters to position it into the space station. I overshot it several times, because it took me a while to learn, like, the tricks to slowing down. Like, I figured out how to get to the space station, but I would, like, drift past it really quickly, and so... I had to like really kind of teach myself how to brake. You would think you could just reverse, but you don't really do that, because if you reverse in the same direction you're pointing, it'll like it'll undo all your corrections. So whenever you thrust forward, you have to like change the direction of your nose to reverse so that your braking actually is effective. And it took me a long time to realize that, and I have a huge RCS tank on this ship. I thought I would be like resupplying the satellite with RCS fuel. That mono propellant, but because I overshot several times and I used like all of the fuel making it, which is fine because this was my first docking attempt, so obviously I'm not going to be amazing at the first go round, but I still feel like I could redo this better because I wanted to add that giant fuel tank to the station. See, there's an example. I overshoot it like that several times before I learned how to like air brake, or not air brake, but like adjust my velocity enough ahead of time so that I slowly come into its like area. And then this really pisses me off. This cost me a huge amount of fuel because the frickin' computer, I got so close to it and then overshot that the computer actually dropped it as my target, which means I lose my little positional ball and I had to like reopen the computer and retarget it, and that cost time, which is fuel. So every time I miss, I have to burn more fuel to correct, and what was supposed to be an excess of mono fuel to resupply the station turns out to be barely just enough to get there. I think I had like 30 left. I don't know. I'm going to check at the very end when I dock here. But I barely get in. Luckily, the station didn't really need to be refueled. It had a shitload with it already. I shouldn't say a shitload, but it has enough to do any kind of maneuvers I need to do. It's just I really wanted this to be a refuel. I was just arrogant. I had the escape pods, 2 hitchhiker tanks, the 3-man crew pod, and I wanted this giant RCS fuel tank. Like, I just overdid it. But I'm glad I did, because I would have been really frustrated if I'd worked this hard and ran out of fuel. Alright, so now I'm pretty close. Like, now it's getting serious. So I start opening the docks. And then I realize I can't get the one on the space station to open, so I got to position closer again, and then I'm going to switch over and open the dock on the space station because I forgot to leave one open. I should have done it when I lifted off. I should have done it before I lifted off. probably a better way to do this, but I failed miserably. Luckily, I said I had this huge mono tank that allowed. See, I can set it as target, but it wouldn't let me open it from there. I don't know. Either way, if I had had a bay open right here, I would have docked right here. Like, I would have docked right there. But instead, there's no bay open. So I lose more fuel having to go back to the computer, frickin' click on the frickin' space station, open the bay as my stupid ship is drifting away, and now I'm gonna have to waste fuel to correct again. So now I'm like, let me go back, and it won't let me. So I go back to the station, back to there. Like, there must be a better way to do this. Alright, so now I'm pretty frickin' close. I'm moving super, super, super slow. I'm not accelerating here, I'm actually just fast forwarding time. I'm moving like incredibly slow here, but I move faster because I fast forward time. Because basically I'm so close now that I can't really accelerate because I won't have time to brake. What'll happen is I'll bump into the station or miss it if I accelerate now. So now I just have to like make tiny minor corrections so that as I drift towards it, I'm gonna hit the dock. So that's what I'm doing now is I'm using the RCS boosters as sparingly as I can, trying to see. I checked there and my fuel's super low. I'm just trying to very gently nudge the tip so that it lines up with the port. I'm really lucky that I got this on my first try. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there was some luck involved because I didn't think it was gonna work. I'm really shocked, but here we go. Kerbinauts connected. And then the magnetism, because the ship that you're in has Kerbinauts in it, it's like the dominant ship, so the other ones snap to it. You get that cool little magnetism snap. So now they're locked together, now they're one ship. And that's my space station. Life support, 2 evacuation pods with parachutes and jet thrusters to re-enter the atmosphere. I got the core unit. Alright, so now I move all my Kerbinauts out of the command and into the actual like life support container. Because apparently you can't move around inside the ship. You have to actually get out, go into the door, which I think is really stupid. I put it underneath the pod on purpose so that he could just move from one to the other, but I guess there's no way to do it yet in the game because the game's not finished or whatever. So I move all my 3 little dudes. This guy almost drifts away, but I saved him. Move him into the little pod there. Each pod can hold 4 guys, and the command module can hold 3. So that space station could technically hold 11 dudes, but I would never. That would be too hard to bring them all home again. I'm pretty sure that every time I bring a ship to the station now, I'll swap the crew out. That'll be a cool little mission for me, so that I always have like a reason. So there are my 3 dudes in there, happy as can be. And there's my space station. The end.